Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where I have a couple news stories with a lot of detail. So once again, if you see me referring to my notes, that's what's going on. The biggest news is that starting today is D23 out in Anaheim. That is Disney's own version of Comic-Con, where they're going to be promoting a number of their projects. They did go to Comic-Con this year and have some Marvel presence, but here expect stories to be breaking not just about Marvel, but about Frozen, Big Hero 6, all their television properties, theme park news. But the biggest headlines by far and away are going to be coming from Star Wars. The rumor has been that this is how Disney is planning to get D23 in the headlines with some major Star Wars news. The news is already starting to leak. Now you might recall that just a few weeks ago I did a piece about how the Star Wars franchise is going to be integrated into the Disney theme parks, and we're getting a little bit more information prior to the D23 starting. One is that, for instance, in Disneyland, they said that the People Mover in Tomorrowland is going to become a Star Wars speeder run. Then also we're going to be getting a cantina-themed restaurant in Disney's Hollywood Studios in Orlando. Both Tomorrowlands are going to be skinned out for Star Wars. And also the Captain EO film that's been playing, and particularly ongoing at both places actually, in Epcot and in Tomorrowland and Disneyland, is going to be replaced with an ongoing ad, 3D commercial basically, for the next Star Wars Episode 7. I was actually having a conversation about this the other day. I kind of think it's a shame that Disney is buying so many properties that I think they're diluting their own brand. I'm a big Disney fan. I love, as I've mentioned many times before on this show, I really love what Walt built, even though sometimes I notice flaws in the man. I really enjoy a lot of the Disney entertainment that comes out. I think it's really quality. It's a little bit more, rock and roll these days. You don't always get a quality piece, but I think there still is a lot of quality coming out of the company, and really a lot of good people working there. I go to Disney World a lot. I'm a huge fan. And I kind of, I like Tomorrowland, and to have a part of, the Magic Kingdom turn into like an ad for Star Wars, I think just would kind of, it would take me out of the magic. Although once I was in it, would I be excited to be there? Probably. Like every moviegoer on the face of the earth of any age, I still get all excited when I hear the Star Wars theme. I mean, I think it's just that big a part of popular culture. So this was basically what I settled on. I said to the person I was talking to, I said, hey, I don't think, it kind of sucks that Disney bought it, but I have to say that if someone told me that Star Wars, the franchise, was up for sale and I could afford it, of course I would buy it. I'd just be like, well, we have to find a way to make it work. I feel that they should build their own Star Wars theme park. I think the more they fold in Marvel, Star Wars, Lucasfilm in general, the Muppets, all these properties that Disney is bringing in, I think they're not paying enough attention to what made them special in the first place. And I think Disney really has to decide if they're an umbrella for other great brands that other visionaries came up with besides Walt Disney, or if they're still pushing the original magic. That's my thoughts on it. And I think it's a really difficult decision to make, and it's a really fine line to walk, because obviously everybody, including myself, loves Marvel, Star Wars, and the Muppets. So I guess you can't have too much of a good thing, at least all in one place, especially if it erases another good thing. All right, so that's my thoughts. Stay tuned for more D23 news, of course, coming out as it breaks. If there's any breaking stories, I will try my best to get them up in time. But also, another thing that came out was that Hugh Grant has just joined the cast of Man from U.N.C.L.E. Now, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is like one of those crazy 1960s spy shows that spun off of the popularity of James Bond. You had that, you had the Avengers, the original, the British Avengers with Emma Peel. And then The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was kind of like, it imagined if the United Nations had its own CIA, its own internal spy agency. And I believe, I never watched the show, but I believe the setup is that there's an American spy working with a Russian spy. And of course, that was the Cold War when the show was on, so that was very interesting. But unfortunately, they're not going to update the concept. From what I'm hearing, Steven Soderbergh was initially attached, but he didn't feel that he was getting enough money to make the film properly because it's going to take place in the 1960s. Wouldn't it be far more interesting to update it to current day and have an American teamed up with a Middle Eastern, a spy? To kind of mirror today's conflict? I think that would be fascinating and much more global. But I think they're still going for the American-Russian setup. And originally, Tom Cruise was going to play yet another spy He was going to play the American lead, but he had to drop out due to conflict with Mission Impossible 5. I think that was a smart choice. Mission Impossible is his franchise, and he was replaced with Henry Cavill. And I think that's I liked Henry Cavill a lot as Superman, but I don't know if he can really carry a film. And of course, prior to Man of Steel, he was in that film, believe it was The Cold Light of Day, which just totally fizzled and bombed at the box office. And then opposite him is going to be Armie Hammer. So you're really teaming Clark Kent with the Lone Ranger. And I think that, that could be an exciting, sexy recipe, or it could be like super bland. I also feel, I don't know if that's really a recipe that guys would be interested in watching. So if you're a guy out there watching the episode right now, tell me, do you want to see an Armie Hammer, Henry Cavill team up? The reason I'm a little more excited about Hugh Grant joining the team is that I did rent Cloud Atlas, and I was not a fan of it. I felt it was the Wachowskis being given too much free reign. But that's a whole other video talking about what I felt the problems with Cloud Atlas were. But one of the things I did take away was I was impressed with Hugh Grant's acting ability. He had to play a number of different roles because that was kind of Cloud Atlas's thing, and I think he pulled him off really well. And I saw him playing like a more serious, grounded character a number of times in the film, actually, and I was really impressed. So I'm excited for Hugh Grant. Maybe is this the return of Hugh Grant? I don't know, but that really is an interesting trio, actually. Even when you add Hugh Grant to it, Henry Cavill, Hammer, and Grant. But the person I'm very interested about in the film is Elizabeth Debicki, who played Jordan Baker in The Great Gatsby and almost walked away with the movie. She's a new actress out of Australia, very talented, and she's playing the villain. And I think that's going to be fantastic. I think it'll be great to have a female villain. I hope she's the big bad. I hope she's the heavy in the film instead of just, the girl working for the main villain. That's always kind of a pet peeve, and I think it's it's been done. Let's just have a female villain outright, and that would be interesting. So I think that's great. This is kind of like the movie of people who are on the cusp of doing great things, but have yet to totally prove themselves. So, and I'm an Armie Hammer fan. I thought he was really good in The Lone Ranger. So that's The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I think it's kind of in a weird place still, and I think Guy Ritchie is also hit or miss. I think that I thought the first Sherlock Holmes was pretty good, but the mystery made no sense. It was impossible to follow. And I thought the second Sherlock Holmes was, I really couldn't find very much to recommend about that film at all. Okay, so those are the first two stories. The third story is actually someone asked me for more information. It was Marcus Toche asked me, what happened with Bruce Willis and the Expendables? Well, the story is that, to hear at least Sylvester Stallone tell it, is that Bruce Willis was offered $3 million for 4 consecutive days of shooting. And Bruce Willis called back and said, you know what, I want 4. I want $1 million a day, or I won't do it. And Sylvester Stallone and his team making the film decided that was just too high a price for Bruce Willis, and they were thrilled they were able to replace him so quickly with Harrison Ford, who I guess was happy to make $3 million in 4 days. I don't know if Harrison Ford will be outright replacing Bruce Willis. I kind of would be disappointed if that was the case. I would like to see Harrison Ford have a bigger role than Bruce Willis has had in these films. But who would turn down 4 days of work for $3 million? I think Stallone could have gotten anybody with that deal. I'm really disappointed to hear this about Bruce Willis. As you know, he was in the news for kind of that bizarre interview in the UK, I believe it was, for Red 2, where he just kind of went off on the reporter. I got the chance to interview him on the red carpet for Die Hard 5 at kind of like a red carpet event. It wasn't an official red carpet. And he was a little bizarre. Bruce Willis kind of had like a go-to answer to go if he didn't like what was asked of him or he didn't know how to answer it. He had this weird rant he went on about how women aren't appreciated enough in the world, and that was kind of like his defense. It was like a shield that he used, and it was very hard and bizarre to deal with. Which is, if you watch that interview, you'll notice that there's less of him than Courtney. I forget the exact name. Jai Courtney. Jai Courtney has more FaceTime in the piece because he was someone you could actually talk to. I managed to get a few things out of Bruce Willis until he just was like deer in the headlights and started talking about how awesome women are, which I felt was a little bit, I mean, as a woman, I guess he felt I would be, oh, this is wonderful, Bruce Willis. Keep talking about how great women are. I'm enjoying this. But it was just frustrating, and I felt a little bit condescending, I guess, towards, I don't know, I think it was weird. But I still to somewhat degree like Bruce Willis, but when you hear stuff like this, it's hard to keep that going because it just seems so greedy. So anyway, Bruce Willis is out of the Expendables 3. I don't know if anybody's going to miss him. considering who's replaced him and who else is going to be in the movie. So I promised I would answer one question a day for sure. So the question today is actually from Gooch60, who said that he and his friends, his friend Ryan, his name is Ryan, and he and his friend have been having an argument or a debate, an uncivil debate, I hope, if Transformers is what led to the creation of Pacific Rim. I don't think we can know for sure. I don't know if the people at Legendary were watching Transformers and were like, we could do better than this. I think a lot of people watch Transformers and feel that way, but Transformers make so much money, and it is also giant robots, that I think that definitely, I think that has to have factored in. And even if it didn't factor into the idea popping up at Legendary, I'm sure it factored into the pitch when they were getting a studio attached and financing. So obviously, Pacific Rim has not enjoyed the same success as the Transformers franchise. I think that's because it was very successful, though, as I've reported, in China, and I think maybe this might be the beginning of kind of like a tug of war for Hollywood's entertainment value in the direction they take their films between American audiences and Chinese audiences, because both pretty soon are going to be on the same level in terms of purchase power. So Hollywood is, but very different audiences, very different interests in what they like to see, as based on what succeeds in each country. So Pacific Rim, I think, has crystallized that the most, and it's doing so well there that actually it was reported that the Chinese film group that hasn't been paying Hollywood is now going to find out at least a temporary solution so they can start paying some of the box office back, the 25% that Hollywood gets, because I would assume, because these movies are generating so much revenue in China, that the China Film Group wants to make sure it keeps getting its 75% of the gross. So what do you think? Do you think Hollywood has to pick a side, Chinese or American? Do you think that we can coexist and like the same entertainment? And, what do you think? Do you think that that's at least a silver lining that Transformers created the Pacific Rim? Write your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll continue to tune in for other episodes right now. Bye.